Yeah, not so much that, but quickly before your battery dies.
I want you to feel it.
Exactly.
My name is Jacqueline Lauricella, and most people call me Jackie. I'm 25 years old, and I'm an athletic trainer. May is the month for mental health awareness, and it's actually a nationally recognized month to support people with mental health problems and disorders, and to promote it in a healthy way that doesn't necessarily paint it in such a negative light. May has been the national month for this since 1949, and it's not something I found out about until recently, and I feel like more people should be able to talk about it and to spread more healthy awareness. I feel like mental health awareness is important because it reduces the stigma behind it. It allows people to feel safe and comfortable in dealing with it rather than feeling ashamed, which is sometimes the hardest part of getting treatment. Many people don't know this, but according to the National Institute of Mental Health, 1 in 5 people suffer from anxiety, and 1 in 25 people suffer from a mental disorder that severely impacts a very normal part of their life. It started at a pretty young age. I remember having sleep problems and night terrors and being worried about things that I'm not sure younger kids should necessarily be worrying about. I remember always straddling the line of being a free spirit, but also being a control freak and worrying about things that are not necessary to worry about. At this point in my life, when I was finishing up my AA, I had a boyfriend that I had been living with for about 4.5, 5 years. We were having some issues. I was also working full-time and a full-time student, and everything was kind of piling up. We also made multiple trips out of the country, which made, money a little tight, but we were doing it to compete. So I think just all of those things accumulating and just something in me kind of snapped. Whenever I would have an anxiety attack, or even in that particular situation, I felt completely helpless to what my body was doing, and it was terrifying. And the only way I can explain it to someone who hasn't experienced it is I felt like I was being attacked, and I felt like I needed to defend myself or run, but I didn't know who I needed to defend myself from, and it was all coming from this internal source that, how do you run from that? I always had small minor episodes of anxiety or anxiety attacks when I was younger, but they seemed to really come to a peak in 2012 and 2013, and it was, my minor attacks maybe happened once a year or every couple of months, and it wouldn't be anything crazy. And I started to feel very uncomfortable, and it was more than just frustration, and it was all of a sudden this fear, and I didn't understand where it was coming from or why it was happening, and my palms were tingling, and I got tunnel vision super bad, and all of a sudden I couldn't breathe. And then the next thing I knew, I was in the bathroom and I was leaning against the door and breathing really heavily, and I don't have any recollection of how I got there. Apparently I walked, but it was a pretty scary experience. 2015, 2016, and my symptoms were things like headaches, chest tightness, I couldn't breathe, my heart rate would accelerate, I would get full body tension. So I would even wake up in the middle of the night with just like my muscles completely contracted in my legs, and I didn't understand why it was happening. I was having attacks like this every day, if not multiple times a day. I had to limit the things that I would do. It was very hard for me to be confined indoors with a lot of people. That would trigger attacks. I couldn't be alone for too long because I was afraid of myself, and I had to limit my contact with certain people because it was all a trigger. Around this time, my mom suggested that maybe I go talk to someone, and I was actually really resistant to that, and I didn't feel like I needed to, because I was like, I can talk to my friends about this isn't that big of a deal, And at that time too, I was absolutely convinced that there was something physically wrong with me. I thought I was dying. So I went to doctors instead, and their immediate response, and this is a PA at a health clinic at my university, and she recommended I get on medication for my anxiety. And I had borrowed a couple of pills from my father that like very quickly calm you down during some of these episodes, so I was like, maybe this will be a good idea. But after about 2.5, 3 months of taking them, I realized that I hate how they made me feel. I think, part of the spectrum of, feeling anxiety a little bit more than others is you also feel happiness a little bit more than other people do, or you feel sadness, and everything's just kind of exaggerated. So being on a medication that dulled everything, I felt like a lesser version of myself, and I felt like I didn't like that a pill could do that to my mind. So I stopped taking them, and I started doing research on simple things that I could do to stop my anxiety attacks or to slow them down. And that really started helping. And I started meditating more, and instead of just avoiding triggers, I tried to address them and understand why they made me feel like that, and try and put it in a perspective of, like, I can deal with my anxiety, like I can learn to control my anxiety. And I started verbalizing the fact that I have anxiety, and little did I know that that was actually probably more toxic than taking medication. One thing that wasn't harmful was talking about the fact that I did have to deal with this, and I was going through these things, because it made me realize that a lot of people do, and it normalized what was happening to me, which lessened the stigma for me. I didn't feel so alienated. I didn't feel like something was wrong with me so much. And before, I was always taught to be mentally strong and physically strong. Like there's no crying in Taekwondo, and pick yourself up and you're fine, and like being asked if I wanted to quit just to test me. So mentally I always felt very strong and very confident, and then to have something like this happen, it was very deflating, and it made me feel very embarrassed about it, because I didn't want the people I loved to see me differently. So I think speaking to those people that I loved about this situation really helped me feel like they're not going to judge me because I handle anxiety differently than they do, or because I handle anxiety the exact same way that they do. And that was almost like freedom. And then I started to understand and realize that I'm in charge of every thought and every action that I have, whether it's being anxious or being happy or anything. That's a choice, and it's my choice, and that's terrifying and beautiful, but all of the best things in life are. If you deal with something internally or feel like you have any kind of mental disorder, then I encourage you to talk to someone about it, and not just people that you love, but seek professional help if you feel like you do. And I don't mean go to a doctor, I mean go to someone that you can talk to that knows specifically how to deal with these things. I feel like my process was longer because I refused to do that, and my process was harder because I chose to do it in a way that didn't ask for professional help. I encourage you to also talk to the people that you love, and to talk to as many people about it as you can. Once you start rephrasing it from I have anxiety to I deal with anxiety, or I cope with anxiety, because everybody has anxiety and stress in their life, and some people just don't deal with it as well, and you have to teach yourself. And if you can reach out, and if you can affect one person or inspire one other person to reach out, it could save somebody's life, and it can save your own life. My goal with this is to just let people know that no matter what you're dealing with or coping with, there's a way to change your life, that it makes it better, and it's hopeful, and there's always something for you, and there's a way for you to live a life that you dream of. The biggest lesson for me in turning everything around is the fact that happiness is a choice, and happiness is self-created, and your thoughts are a choice, and your actions are a choice, and your anxiety is a choice. So why not choose happiness, and why not choose freedom and love and a sense of gratitude for everything that happens to you, and don't let yourself get caught up in those like negative, bad feelings, because it's so easy to get sucked in, and you can do it too, and you can be right here feeling as much love and happiness as I am now on a very ordinary Saturday. I can very happily say that I am in one of the best places in my life currently than I've ever been, and it's because I've taught myself how to deal with these things, and it's because I've lessened my monster and I've controlled my thoughts, and I've realized how much positive manifestation and meditation and just being happy with your choices. It's really easy to get caught in these repetitive patterns of bad habits, and because it's your comfort zone. But I realize the more I step out of that and the more I try new things, it's just, my whole life is just filled with love, and it's filled with light. Everybody has that capability, and be happy and healthy. I'm Jackie Lauricella, and I can confidently say that anxiety does not control my life anymore.
Get me in a complex coma.